I would try to really find out who the user is, why they purchased from you, like what motivated them, and how they got from point A to point B. What that means is that you have to use the bot as a way to get information and insights about your users and what kind of items they'll like from your store.
Welcome to the Chatbot Podcast, the place where we talk about bots, artificial intelligence, smart automation, and messenger marketing. We value our time and enjoy when technology makes our lives easier. And now your host, Balint Pataki.
What is going on, everyone? This is episode 11, and today we discuss the best use cases of chatbots and go into specifics of messenger bots for Shopify stores. My guest is Stefan Kojouharov, the founder of Chatbots Life and also the founder of Gobeyond.ai, which is a software dedicated to help you with your Shopify store when it comes to messenger marketing. Gobeyond can be connected to ChatFuel, one of the most powerful bot builders out there. Just as a quick note, we pay a ChatFuel Pro account for our students, and you can still join Chatbot Tutorial Pro for an early bird price. Just visit chatbottutorial.com/pro for the details. And as always, you will find the show notes of this episode when you visit chatbottutorial.com/podcast. I'm super excited to learn from Stefan, and I hope you will as well, so enjoy the interview. Hi Stefan, thank you for accepting my invitation and making the time for this interview.
Absolutely, thank you for having me.
I would love you to give a short background on you. I know you have heaps to say about chatbots, and you have probably one of the biggest portfolio in terms of chatbots when we consider the last few years. Just give us a short intro for the listeners who don't know you yet.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Stefan Kojouharov. I'm the founder of Chatbots Life. Chatbots Life right now is the second most popular publication online for chatbots in terms of traffic. And what we do is we help, we write a lot about the community, write about chatbots, we give our insights. We also help companies with their chatbot projects. So for example, we've helped companies like Oath, which owns Yahoo and AOL. I know no one uses that anymore. We've worked with an HR company. We built an HR bot for them. Coca-Cola Bulgaria was something done by our team. Louis Vuitton. There's a couple ones like that. And then in the bot space itself, Near Group, which is probably the most popular chatbot in terms of traffic, they get about 70 to 100 million messages per day. And then Swelly, of course, is one of the most popular bots as well, and we helped on the onboarding side with them. So when we help clients, we get insights, we share those insights, and then what we're doing more this year is we're starting to create products that are very specific for specific vertical solutions that we'll talk about today, like the e-commerce, and then we also have a conference as well.
Okay, thank you very much. I believe you have a very big, a very broad overview on the whole industry, and also particularly in e-commerce, which we're going to go deeper today. Yeah. I'm really curious though, what's your background? What was your first bot experience? What brought you into this space?
Yeah, so my background's very interesting. So I think that I've always been really interested in entrepreneurship from, I would say, like late teens, early 20s. I started thinking very deeply on the fact that one day I have to get a job, and if I'm going to do something for 8 to 10 hours a day, I better love it. And it better pay a lot because, it's better to have money than not. So my background, my education is in business and psychology, which should be very inspiring because I literally didn't know what a string was until I was like 30. So what attracted me to technology was the entrepreneurial opportunity. So I started my first businesses when I was in college, where I was buying and selling different items. And when I graduated college, I had a couple of stores in the precious metal business. And this is like 2009, 2010. And by 2012, I realized that if you're going to scale a small business, it's a big effort, right? There's a lot of capital that you need to have. There's risk involved, etc. And the business I was in at the time, which was precious metals, it's an old man's business. Okay, and I would say my number one quality, or the thing that makes me different, is creative thinking, just creative problem solving, and there's not much creative problem solving when it comes to precious metals, diamonds, this sort of business. So I did an inventory and I decided to get into technology. And at the time, this was 2012, I started my first app, which was a messaging app. And what the messaging app did is it allowed people to get local products or services through a text message. And instead of you sending it to one company, you could send it out to many. So I had like a one-to-many feature. So for example, let's say that you wanted to get a haircut in the next 1 hour. What you can do is you can go on this app. You can say, hey, I need a haircut in the next 1 hour. I have $50. And then we send that message out to local hairdressers. Those hairdressers, the ones that are available, will write back to you. You'll get a message from them. And then we also pull in the Yelp reviews and the Google reviews. And then people can make a very quick decision based on who's available and what the price is and and the quality and the distance. And it basically changed the whole paradigm where you have to do like a small research project today. Instead, you didn't have to do a small research project. It was automated. But the interesting thing is that when we went to companies and we're like, hey, we can do this, we can add you to our system, you know what a lot of them said? They take a guess. You're going to laugh.
I believe many of these small companies are very close-minded.
Yeah. So they said something like, Stefan, we like it, but we don't want to have to answer these messages. And I'm like, well, do you answer your phone? You answer your emails? They're like, yeah, but they're going to ask us the same questions all the time. Like, what are your opening hours? Are you available right now? And so this kind of stuck with me in the back of my mind, where people really small businesses didn't want to engage in that way. And then in 2015, I came across bots about 6 months before Facebook was launching bots. And I thought, well, what a perfect solution, because it solves that problem and it's Facebook. And what we were working on, essentially, Facebook is not working on. So that's how I got into bots. It was a very natural progression into it.
I definitely can relate to the idea of starting a business during college.
Yeah.
And I love how you had this experience that there is a massive need for the same questions to be answered, but not manually.
Right.
Because they're just busy doing their business, what they do anyways, and it should be handled by the technology because it's the same answer.
Exactly.
Right. So you started to get involved with the chatbots and you wrote articles to many publications, and it's been for like 3 years as of now. What you see the biggest change that you probably didn't expect to have, if we can sum it up in a quick way?
You mean like my biggest surprise?
Yeah, so I believe because we are still at the beginning in a way, but people tell like, okay, we had this hype and now it's going a little bit back, and then we will have the real use cases. Mm-hmm. So there were some of these predictions, and what were yours, or how do you look back and see the progression so far, and what was probably surprising to you?
So that's a really good question. There's not that much that really surprised me, and that's part of, I guess, the journey. When we first got into bots, there was a whole lot of hype, right? But it was very clear that the quality wasn't there. There is no reason why the CNN bot was better than the CNN app, for example. I would say that my biggest surprise is kind of like, I've never been this close to an emerging technology as it's unfolding. And just to watch that unfolding and from the inside, when you're inside the space, it looks like it's happening very slowly. But if you're not inside, if you're not like in San Francisco in the tech hub, if you're on the outside, you probably heard about bots in 2016. Maybe you had a bot experience. You probably thought it sucked. And maybe you might have another one in 2018 or 2019 or 2020, and it might be really good, right? And that's all you know. All you know is like, oh, apps sucked, now apps are good. Oh, did you hear about this new app? So from the outside, it looks like it's evolving very quickly. From the inside, it looks like it's unfolding very slowly. In terms of the hype cycle, the hype for bots was huge. And I think that initially users definitely had the wrong expectations. They were going to like the CNN bot asking for pizza, right? You would never really do that, right? You would never like call CNN on the phone and be like, hey, I want an extra large pepperoni. But with the bot, they did. They were thinking that it was going to be like Jarvis or like the movie Her, but obviously it's not that good. And then I think it took us a while, but we finally got to a point where we started to see the light at the end of the tunnel. We started to see a number of use cases, I would say 3 main ones, that are becoming very, there's a very direct ROI associated with these 3 use cases. And now that companies know what those 3 use cases are and that there's an ROI, they're starting to invest in them. I think that's the really good news. The other thing that bots were supposed to do, which they are doing very slowly, is democratizing technology, right? So now creating a bot is way cheaper than creating an app was 10 years ago, right? And the barrier to entry of making a bot is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I think one of the things we're going to see over time is, I would call it like modular design, where bots are kind of built through modules. So you might go to Chatfuel because they have a really good bot builder. You might use Gobeyond because they have a good module for e-commerce. You might use SmartLoop.ai because they have like a really good, robust bot personality that can figure out the psychology of your user. And then I think maybe the future will be something like this, perhaps.
Yeah, I love the idea of this democratizing and making it easier for creators. We had an interview about Alexa skills, and it seems like the developers will be the creative persons who have the idea, and they don't really need the complicated coding in certain instances.
Yeah, I think we're headed in that direction for sure. And I think given enough time, and people talk about machine learning and AI and the type of jobs it'll eliminate. Well, some of the really easy jobs to eliminate are jobs that are totally dependent on math. Anything mathematical, a computer could do better than you and I. So some people are saying and thinking that some of the early jobs that will be replaced by AI and ML might be developer jobs and like low-level programming jobs. So in the future, when you want to develop something or create a new app or create a new bot, you might talk to a bot and you might really list out your requirements. You might really design it well, but the actual logical layer and how the bot calculates what time it is, or how the bot calculates where the person is and when it should send them a message, maybe those things are more automatic. You don't have to develop them at all.
Yeah, I agree with that. So you mentioned 3 use cases or points where there's ROI to be made. What are those?
So the 3 use cases, and I'm really excited about them. So the first one is marketing. So and then you'll see this like whenever like a new technology comes on board. One of the things that I look for first is how are marketers using these new technologies. If marketers are starting to adopt it, that's going to tell us a lot about what are some of the best ways to use it. I'll give you an example of this. If you look at like online marketing, early days, like early 2000s, back then they were finally figuring out email marketing, the marketers, but they figured it out. And now it's so easy to do email marketing, but they actually used email for marketing. And then if you remember back then, they also used to have the one page website where you would like forever scroll and they would be selling some product. And you read a little bit, buy now, scroll, read more, buy now. Do you remember those?
A flashy button and arrows.
Right. Do you remember those?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So that idea, and they were really long. I mean, like if they were not one page, they would probably be like 20 pages. But the reason they put it on one page was a really smart reason. And I'll get to that in a second. But that endless scroll was later adopted by Facebook, by Google. Like, every time you like use your phone, it's basically that same idea of endless scroll, which is the reason why these marketers were doing it. Instead of you having to go to a different page, why take you off the screen at all when you're already there? Why not just go to the next objection, the next objection, the next objection? And now we're seeing this is like a common practice, the endless scroll in apps and online.
Oh, yeah.
So
even the blogs adopted it.
Yeah, even
the next
that.
article.
Exactly. So now one of the first things I was doing after the bots is I was watching the marketers to see how they would use it. And they're using bots in a couple of different ways. They're using them for bottom of the funnel as a way to optimize and automate certain types of interactions and conversations. They're using it in the middle of the funnel for content marketing, and they're using it at the top of the funnel to get people in their funnel, because right now the stats for bots sending messages is a lot better than emails. So for emails, like if you're really good, you might have a 20 or 25% open rate. If you're really good, you might have a 25% sign up rate. And then the click-through rate might be like 5-10%. With bots, your open rate is like 75%. Your click-through rate's like 50% on the high end, right? So you can get a lot more sales with 100 people on your bot than you can 100 people through email or 100 people through your website.
Yeah, exactly. So that was the marketing use case.
That's the marketing. The second would be customer service. And this one's kind of obvious. This is something that Facebook talked about from the very beginning, where bots replaced the 1-800 number. But customer service, finally, it's starting to give value. And companies are using it by focusing in on one of two things. Either it's a customer service bot that's handling like the top 20 or 30 most common questions, which is going to be like the bulk of questions that any customer service center receives. Like the 80-20 rule really applies, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
80% of the time you're getting the same 20 questions. So they're starting to automate that using a bot. I was talking with Bot Analytics, which is one of the bot analytic companies. And
we had them on the podcast.
You had them on the podcast, yeah. So the average customer service queries handled in 5 minutes, takes about 5 minutes. And these are for easier ones. And then more complicated ones, they usually send them to a person. So that's customer service is a use case. The other way they're doing customer service is for the agents themselves. So customer service, especially in the United States, is a pretty high turnover. So you're always hiring new employees. And now there's one company, I read the headline today, they just received $8 million in funding. And basically what they do is they help call centers by using chatbots that can help suggest what to say. They can give them a predictability score on whether this response is good enough or not, whether it meets the threshold. And basically they're there to help the agent respond faster, easier, etc. That's the second use case. And the third use case is the one that I'm the most excited about.
Let us know.
Sure. And it's actually the one that no one knows about. It's a hidden use case. And it's hidden because it's not consumer facing, it's B2E, business to employee. So when these big companies, a lot of them right now have a lot of enterprise software that's really, really old, that millennials hate using, and then the Gen Z forget it. They don't even want to try using this software, right? So what ends up happening is that they have this software, but very few people are using it. So there's this really big opportunity for enterprises to create a middle chat layer that integrates with that old enterprise software, and makes it conversational. So that way you don't have to redesign it because the functionality is already there. You're just integrating with the bot. A good example of this might be HR. So you might already have HR systems or HR departments. Making an HR bot, for example, is a really big win for a company because now the person or the employee can go 24/7, say, hey, I'm sick or I'm not feeling well. That request goes automatically and it integrates with their system. You're just making it conversational, the applications they already have. Other use cases that are internal, like HR, that are really good, like password resets. One of my favorite examples is a bot called Coin from JP Morgan Chase. And what this bot does is it just reads the contracts from JP Morgan, and it just reviews contracts all day. And it matches them up against a template, and then they say, hey, what's the what are some of the errors that it could fix? It fixes them automatically. In the first year, it saved them 360,000 hours of work.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah. So I think we're seeing a lot of companies, big enterprises that see some value in bots internally, and then they're starting to say, okay, what else can we automate internally? And this was pretty, I don't want to say obvious, but it wasn't obvious because no one was thinking this way, even though it should have been, because one of the top, messaging companies that has bots on it is Slack. And this is all pretty much Slack stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Let's dive into e-commerce a bit. And I think it comes from a combination of the first two. And I believe it's a very good use case for chatbots. And I guess that was your idea as well when you said, okay, we want to create a couple of products or services related to chatbots, and let's start with Go Beyond in e-commerce.
Yes, exactly. So one way to think about bots is essentially all bots is just an automated communication channel. Okay, imagine if email was smarter. In other words, it could make decisions for us based on what the other person says. For example, you and me, when we were talking on email, and you say, hey, Stefan, are you available tomorrow at 10 a.m. for a call? Someday the email should be smart enough where I could look in my Google Calendar and it could say, yes, you're available at 10 a.m. But it's not that smart. So imagine if email was smarter, the bot already has that ability. It could already tell you, yeah, I'm available at 10 p.m. Okay, let's book the appointment. And it could automatically respond. So that's one way I like to communicate it. Imagine if email was smart. Imagine if email was automatic. Okay, and imagine if email could do things for us. So once you set up that appointment, it could do something like send you a reminder or send you a follow-up of that appointment, right? Or if there's some actionable task afterwards, it can send that. So that's, I think, like the cool benefit of bots. Essentially, it's like a communication channel on steroids, email on steroids, essentially, a smart email on steroids. So when we looked at e-commerce, when we're looking at marketing, et cetera, you start looking at your sales funnel and where can we do those automated things the best? We say starting at the bottom of the funnel is probably the best. So most e-commerce stores have about a 70% abandoned cart rate. So one of the things that we do is we send them abandoned cart reminders through Messenger, and those, since they have a higher open rate and a higher click-through rate, the recovery rate is also going to be higher, obviously. And then as soon as they use that bot and they send that reminder through their Messenger, now they're in your Messenger funnel. You can message them again, and then you can also learn about the user and personalize the experience for them. So in the future, having experiences with technologies won't be about the average person. Right now, it's all about the average person. So when you or I go to the, let's say, ralphlauren.com, right, we see the same website, even though we like to buy different things. My wife goes to ralphlauren.com. She's also going to see the same website as me, even though I'm never going to buy a dress. And she's probably never going to buy, polo shorts, right? In the future, when you use an e-commerce bot, it'll be like going to the mall, but you're automatically in your favorite store. And you're automatically in your favorite department, and you're automatically looking at that shirt that you've been thinking about, right? And you'll see the pair of pants that match it, right? And you'll see the belt that goes with it. So you're going to have this experience where it's, you're walking through that front door, and it's exactly for you.
Yeah, and just how people differ when they go to the malls or have different habits. I like to, when they offer the help, I just like to straight the thing I want and just point me there, I go there, I get it. And some people just like walking around and looking around. So in a way, the chat bot could do that task for us. Like if I want to straight, like point me straight. If I want to get some recommendations, it's there on the side and can assist.
Exactly. Yep.
So as of now, you said 70% is about the cart abandonment.
Mm-hmm.
How many people opt in for Messenger to be sent a reminder? Do you have any data on that, or is that even measurable with Gobeyond?
So the data that we would have would be small. It's a small sample size because we don't have millions of stores or hundreds of thousands of stores or anything. So it's not statistically significant. One of the things, though, is that you could, in the very beginning of this feature, this is using the checkbox feature provided by Facebook. So in the early days of the checkbox feature, the checkbox used to be automatically checked. So when that was the case, it was like 100%. But then Facebook stopped doing that. And I believe that right now, if you want to have it automatically checked, you have to apply to Facebook. So whether it's automatically checked or not, that makes the biggest difference. And if you can get it, if you apply for it and if you can get it automatically checked, it'll make a big difference in your recovery rates.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's on a domain base. And you need to apply for it.
That's right.
But I just wondered if people actually take it when they go with the flow.
Right. So obviously it's not as good as if it's automatic, but people do it. People do click it. So it does work. And there's other ways to incentivize them to click it or to call out that, box. Also, it really matters where you put it on the page and where it is within the flow. So a lot of our competitors end up putting that checkbox plugin at the very end, of the purchasing process. We put it in the very beginning, and then if they don't checkbox it, we're going to be putting it on every subsequent page as well. So they have more than one opportunity to checkmark.
Yeah, that sounds very clever. And I believe there is some rules by Facebook where you shall place it. So it should be a conscious decision from the user side in a way.
Right, of course. Yeah.
Okay, so that's one of the biggest thing for marketers, I guess, that we can get those people who almost bought, and what's happening? We send them a message, and they click and they get back to the shop, or do they get some sort of a conversational flow there, or what are the best practices here?
So for the abandoned cart, if they check market and if they do not purchase, what we'll do is we'll send them a reminder, generally within 2 hours. But the store has the parameters. They could say, oh, I want it sent within 2 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours, 1 day, etc. So it depends on, but we recommend within 2 hours for the first message, and we send up to 3 reminders. Of course, the user could always opt out. And then each reminder is different, right? So you're not sending them the same exact message 3 times. Right,
and then just giving them bigger and bigger discounts.
Well, the store could do that. Yeah, they could be like 10% off. No, wait, 20% off.
Wait, I wanna wait one more day.
Yeah.
So there's this rule by Facebook about the 24 hours. So you just have to make sure that if they don't interact, everything happens within this time frame, right?
That's right.
Okay. So you work primarily with Chatfuel.
You mean Gobeyond or?
Yeah, I mean Gobeyond, not you personally. How is the communication between them? How fluid this is? Can you load the cart dynamically with a Chatfuel bot? Mm-hmm. What do people need to do to get this going?
Oh, so all they need to do. So this is how it works. Basically, we have an app on Shopify that takes all of the data that Shopify gives us, like who the purchaser is, who the person is on your website, like all this information. And then we have our own application layer on the back end that makes decisions and does things automatically. And then we have the Chatfuel kind of as a front end. So what happens is for some of those automatic features like abandoned cart recovery, upselling, capturing leads, so some of those features are done by our own application on the back end. So our app will send them, okay? When it comes to other features like pulling the products from Shopify onto your bot, what we do is we have an API call. So the API just pulls it from our back end, and our back end pulls it from the Shopify app. So that way, like, you don't, if you have 100 products, you don't want to just pull them or do them manually one by one on Chatfuel. That would, it'll take you, months. You can just automatically pull them through Gobeyond and using the APIs.
Okay, and it imports all the images and texts and whatnot, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And then people could buy, through the bot just by like pushing a button. A web view will come up, and it'll actually be your Shopify mobile version of your site for that product.
Okay, so it's not like the native function of Messenger payment.
That's correct.
Sort of a Shopify landing page inside of Messenger. Okay, that makes sense. And have you experienced native shopping with Messenger, or is there a reason for that you stick with the web view?
So there's a couple of reasons. One, it's easier, and why reinvent the wheel? One of the really good things about these platforms like Shopify is that they're always looking for ways to improve the user experience. So when it comes to like making sure that those pages convert really well, Shopify's done experiments on like 300,000 stores, right? They have an enormous amount of data. So the conversion rate on a Shopify page is higher than the conversion rate on a bot using the native payment options. So that's probably the number one reason we went with the web view, because we know that page is going to convert substantially better than if we did the same thing with native. And the reasons are pretty obvious. Like that page, when it pops up, it gives you way more information. You have reviews from customers. You have multiple pictures. It's just an overall better experience, more information, and it's trusted. Like, you've done this before. You haven't done the other thing before.
Yeah, and especially for international users, the payment integration is just not there yet.
Yeah, exactly.
So they still need to use their credit cards or PayPal or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we got them back to the shop in a way, and they have another opportunity to purchase. Let's say they make the purchase. What going on in the chat bot itself? Do we send out tracking information? Is there a follow-up for reviews, opportunity on whatever?
Yeah. So a number of things will happen after they purchase. They should get a receipt, like hey, thank you for your purchase. Here's your receipt, with the option to track it, or to get shipping updates. And then once they receive the item, some of these features we're working on. Once they receive the product, then we can ask them for reviews, what they thought about it. One idea is that we might even ask for a video review. Like, hey, we'll give you an extra 10% off for your next item if you give us a video review. And that way, it makes a really big difference when next time someone else goes to a bot, if they're buying the same item, and you could say, hey, do you want to see our video reviews, right? Now you get to see how it fits on somebody else, right? What they actually say about it. Yeah, I think that's
very powerful.
Yeah. So that's one. Another thing that it does is upselling and downselling. So after you buy something, I think you're 1/3 more likely to buy something again than not. So we could say, hey, you bought this polo. Hey, these shorts are going to go with it. Here's 10% off for the next 24 hours. And you can say, oh, no.
Is it like stacking the whole purchase, or just completely separate? You just offer, because like there are this one-time offer, and you can upgrade, and it's still in the same shipping or whatnot.
So that's a good question. I don't know how it's programmed or how Shopify handles it, but however the Shopify store is set up to handle it, we're just sending another transaction. If they want to ship it together, that's up to them.
Okay. And there is a down sale as well, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So
what's the down?
Yeah, exactly.
So an upsell is like when someone bought something. A downsell is when they didn't buy that something. So, for example, let's say you bought a shirt. I might say, okay, let's upsell him. And they'll say, okay, the upsell might be buying sneakers. If you say no to the sneakers, we might send you a downsell, which might be, buying a hat, right? It's just another item that we send you. So you're not, so that way the person has more than one opportunity to buy something. So you get, after a purchase, the person will get one upsell. If they don't buy it, they get one downsell. But let's say they buy the downsell, right? Let's say you bought the hat, right? Next, we might send you another upsell. Okay. The next upsell might be like shorts. If you buy that upsell, you'll get another upsell, maybe a belt. And it continues like this. But at most, you'll get 3 upsells and 3 downsells. But that assumes you bought 3 items as well.
Okay. Then you have to use some big GIFs and emojis when they go all, and every single item we offer them. They why not? Let's put it into a cart. Yeah. So one of the things I love in chatbots that they have the context, and this is the context like what was your last order, what's your shipping address or whatnot. So they don't have to search for the tracking number. They could just ask back, hey, where's my order, and get an update on that, right? And if there's just one order, it identifies it as the only order. If there are more orders, probably can ask in a cleverer way than just, hey, paste your tracking code here. Right. Or how does that work as of now?
So right now, we're doing it the easier way. So there's a couple of ways you can do it, and we've actually created custom solutions for some of our stores, but not. Let me see. Not every time. Whenever someone sells something on Shopify, they don't get a tracking number 100% of the time. There's different ways that the business could fulfill that order, right? So what we're doing right now, we're just asking the store owner, hey, what's your fulfillment time from the moment you get an order to your delivery? How long does it typically take? And if they say, let's say that it takes 10 days, what we do is we know that it takes 10 days, and then we know when the person purchased, and we just do the math and we give them an estimated time of arrival. So that's how it's working right now for the most stores. What that means in practical terms is like user goes on and says, hey, where's my order? We'll say, oh, it looks like you want to track the order. What's your tracking number or what's your email address? We look him up by email address. Let's say that they bought something on January 1st. Now it's January 5th, and they're asking us, hey, where's my order? We look them up. We'll say, hey, it looks like you bought something on January 1st. It should be there by January 10th because it has, let's say, a 10-day fulfillment. For one of our other stores, we did a custom widget for them where, and again, it depends on what features or the store already has. So this one, they were having tracking numbers 100% of the time, and they had a really easy way for someone to track. Right? So in their case, what we did is someone goes in there, they give their email address. We go and we look up who the order is, and then we pull the tracking number, and then we automatically send them a link to where the package is being tracked. And that is also a web view that comes up, and it sends them to their website because they had a tracking feature on their website where you put in the tracking number. So we basically automated that flow.
Yeah, that's what I love, because you remember the store name and you can just pop in there and like, hey, where's my order? You don't want to remember the tracking number or like what companies do the delivery or whatnot.
Exactly.
That's the bot's job to do. Right. Let's be honest.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So we have a whole order process. We got the order. How do we remarket to these users? Because let's be honest, the Facebook promotional rule can kick in after a certain time. And let's say we get even a review. 1 week goes by and we say, we have this list of already buyers, or maybe not even buyers, but we want to remarket to them. We want to engage with them. What are best practices for e-commerce stores?
So think of it again like, what's your email strategy, right? When someone comes and buys a widget from your store, I think the first question is like, what kind of a store are you? And within the e-commerce, I think there's two main types. There's basically what they call arbitrage and brands, right? So if you're a brand and you have a bunch of products that you're selling that are within your brand, then obviously you want to start creating a relationship with that user. So when it comes to the bot, I would do things like I would try to really find out who the user is, why they purchased from you, like what motivated them, and how they got from point A to point B. What that means is that you have to use the bot as a way to get information and insights about your users and what kind of items they'll like from your store. A good example of this would be like playing a game of hot or not. Like, hey, tell us if you like this item or not, right? And you show them red dress versus blue dress, and they vote on the item they like more. Now you're getting insights from this user on what they like, right? So you can then personalize the experience for them. For the arbitrage stores, I don't know if they're going to really care that much because they're just selling a one-off item like a fidget spinner. They're going to sell that fidget spinner one time to you. Maybe you're going to buy it for your family too, but most likely not. And you're probably not going to go back and buy another fidget spinner. It's just like a one-time compulsive purchase. It's kind of cool and neat, and you just want it, but you're not going to buy them over and over again. So for those types of stores, then I would focus more on how can you incentivize them to maybe share this cool, odd item with their friends.
And that could lead us to doing contests and using, for example, the ref URL of Messenger, where yes, you can track all these invitations as well, right?
Right, and you could, and exactly. It's like Messenger is inherently social. It's a social platform, right? So think about like, how can you make your use case inherently more social? What can you what can you do to bring this about?
Yeah, bringing friends into the equation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you have any great use cases where a customer of yours said like, okay, we started to implement the things that we just quickly went over with chatbots, and the numbers skyrocketed? And is there anything that you could share with us in this, like some numbers, some success stories?
I can give like broad strokes. I don't want to name any names, but from the abandoned cart recovery, when it works for a store, it could have a lift 7 to 25%, which is pretty big. And when it comes to the customer service side, this is from Messenger's numbers. They say that when done correctly, according to Messenger, something like 39% savings for customer service, as much as. So those are two things that we're seeing. And I mean, this is just the beginning of it. It's going to get better and better and better.
Oh, I have no doubts about that. But so as of now, the second best use case, which is the customer service, you say from 10 people, 4 would be automated by the chatbot, so to say.
Oh, no. What I'm saying is the cost to service a customer service request drops by about 40% when you're using a bot, 39%. So it's a really big cost savings, right? Because it's automated 24/7, etc.
Okay, yeah, and with these tools, live agents can manage more customers as well and do more effective jobs as well. Okay. Well, I don't want to rob your time, and I'm really stoked to have these insights from you. Before I want to mention the conference, I just love to have some more infos about Go Beyond, what's coming in the future, and also what other projects do you have in mind in terms of chatbots?
Sure, absolutely. So let's talk about the other projects. So I'm working on something called SmartLoop.ai. And SmartLoop is basically a platform for enterprises. And one of the things that we're thinking about right now is to make it really psychologically smart. So it learns a lot about the user, but it's not just learning about the user's preferences, but also it's learning about the user's psychology and what motivates them and how they make decisions. So then we can talk to the user in a way that, they talk to themselves essentially. So that's one of, I think, pretty exciting. And then it also solves one of the bigger problems for enterprises. And we've had this happen when we made bots for people, for companies. And that is, we give them their bot, here it is. And then they say something like, okay, we want to send a message now. We say, okay, well, let us know. Our engineers will send it out for you. Or they want to change the copy, or they want to add a flow. So in a typical enterprise setting, that's a pain in the ass, because now you have a product manager, a copywriter, a marketer, and an engineer. All 4 people have to sit in the room and talk about what message you're going to send next. So we have a solution for that. It's basically like, I don't want to say Chatfuel for enterprise clients, but we can say Chatfuel for enterprise clients. So once we give them their bot, we can also give them the platform, and then they can send out messages, they can update copy, they can create new flows, they create new bots internally. And then, this solution can be totally hosted behind their firewall. It's not just online. It could be self-hosted. So that's one. And then about the Chatbot conference, it's in San Francisco, September 19th. We're featuring 40 of the top speakers. It's probably more now, 40 of the top speakers in the bot space. That includes founder of Swelly, Peter, Dashbot. We have Google Assistant teams coming, Oracle. We have a couple of people from Oracle, IBM Watson, and 36 other speakers that are really, really good.
Okay. I unfortunately won't make it, but I'm really excited that you put this together, and hopefully you will leak some information from that conference as well.
Yeah, I probably well after the conference if I have time.
Well, probably not. So I suggest if you have the chance as a listener, go there. And we have a promo code as well, right?
Yes.
For 20% off, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, the promo code is really easy to remember.
As it's a promo code 20.
Yeah, it's 20. Yeah, it's just the number 20. So if you put in 20, you'll get 20% off. And at the conference, we also have a workshop. And the workshop teaches you how to make a customer service chatbot that's using SmartLoop on the front end. And then on the back end for the NLP layer, it's using Rasa, which is a really good NLP platform. It's open source. It's something that a company can download internally and use that way. So it's a full day workshop. At the end of the day, the people will have a customer service chatbot that they could take home with them or take it to work. Don't take it home, take it to work. And that's also included in the 20% off.
Maybe could do the chit chat with the neighbors. All right. Thank you, Stefan. It was lovely to talk to you, and we will have the links in the show notes. And I hope we chat another time as well. Just a quick question. You know so many people in the industry. Who would you nominate as our next guest? Who would you love to listen to tell their experience with chatbots, or they probably have a software solution?
Sure. I would actually recommend Shane Mack. He's the founder of Assist. And I think he's a really, really, really insightful guy. I like to think that I'm maybe 3 to 6 months ahead of where we are, right? I think he's maybe 1 or 2 years ahead of where we are. So if you want to know the next 6 months, ask me. You want to know the next 2 years, you can ask him.
Okay, I have to keep in mind when to publish that episode then.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome. Have a good rest of your day.
I wish I could have prolonged the interview and asked more questions. Fortunately, Stefan agreed to come back at a later point for more discussion as the technology evolves. You can see the show notes at chatbottutorial.com/podcast, and don't forget to use the discount code if you go to the conference. Till the next episode.
Thanks for joining the Chatbot Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to rate us on iTunes and share it with others.